The Lighthouse. Oh boy. The Lighthouse is written and directed by Robert Eggers, the writer and director of 2015's The Witch, and this is about the hallucinatory and hypnotic tale of two lighthouse keepers in 1890s New England. Stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as the two lighthouse keepers. This is a movie that I was really looking forward to all year. I had heard so much about this movie leading up to its release. Its limited release this week. It's only playing in major cities across the country, gotten so much critical acclaim, just like Robert Eggers' previous film, The Witch. The Witch was a movie I actually did not see in theaters. It was a movie I blind bought on Blu-ray and thought it was okay. You know, it wasn't anything great or special. It's definitely a slow burn of a movie. It's better than this because The Lighthouse. Oh my God, this movie put me to sleep. The Witch never actually put me to sleep. Despite The Witch being a mixed bag, the difference between this and The Witch is the fact that I feel like The Witch actually has some intense moments. It actually has tension. It builds the suspense. This movie is literally just two people sitting in a lighthouse talking. Every scene of dialogue in this movie is so long and so drawn out. And the dialogue is just, they're talking in like, I don't know, pirate language? So it's like words we don't use every day, and it's just, every sentence is like, you hippie, long-stocking, idiotic, bumfuck, one-legged, ass-covering, bastardized, dickwad, octopus head, sea creature. That's literally what every sentence in this movie is. Every line of dialogue in this movie is like that. And that's all the entire movie is. I don't understand the acclaim with this movie because that's all this movie is dialogue with two characters sitting and talking. I've said this before. That is one of the lamest ways to have characters interact. Just sit and talk. If they're gonna just sit and talk, have them do something interesting. I would have been more okay with it in this movie if that were the case. It's just a bunch of you seamen who can't really drive a boat, you seagull licking, ass covering, a-hole bastard, shell face. Enough. Just enough. Enough of this dialogue. Like, there's no way dialogue has to be that elongated. Be concise and get to the point. There's no story here whatsoever because there's nothing that's really built up. There's something with, like, this object, and then the whole movie just completely goes away from that, and then it comes back to it at the end. I'm like, so this whole movie revolved around that. With very little plot structure and very little suspense. This movie didn't have that much suspense. I will admit this. The movie is very well directed. I think Robert Eggers did what he wanted to. He had a vision, did what he wanted to. The acting is phenomenal. Willem Dafoe is great. Robert Pattinson, this is the best I have ever seen that guy, and I've been so critical of him because of Twilight. This movie looks really good. It is filmed in black and white. And that actually wasn't why I was bored. I didn't mind the black and white aesthetic because, you know, it kind of reminded me of, like, the birth of cinema. It reminded me of, like, a film from, like, 1915. Almost like this was supposed to be a silent movie. It had that aesthetic. So many shots felt like that. So many shots felt like they were just supposed to be just music, no dialogue, and just, to your imagination, what the sound was supposed to sound like. But, like, you have to have a compelling story here. There's nothing I felt that was emotionally investing. These characters, I was not invested in. I could really care less. I understand, there's got to be build-up. And for a while, I thought it was build-up. Because after a while, we actually learned these characters' names. So I was like, that took a while. But then I was like, all right, this is build-up. Maybe the first half of the movie is just going to be build-up. No. The entire movie feels like build-up. It feels like the movie feels like it's leading to something and it never gets to that point. Because there's very minimal plot structure here. There's a very minimal story. There is a lot of benign dialogue. Like, there's no way you have to have characters talk this much using that many words with words we don't understand. Just make it concise and to the point. The Lighthouse was a huge letdown for me. This, I can't go on anymore. I feel like I've made my point with this review. Like, it's just a movie that bored me. I felt like it was a very boring movie that was very uneventful. It was just two characters sitting in a lighthouse, talking and yelling at each other. That's all I felt this movie was. Despite the great directing, the great acting, the great visuals, the black and white aesthetic of the movie that makes it feel like it's a movie from the birth of cinema, from that era of cinema. There is nothing technically wrong with this movie. But you also have to have a compelling story, you have to have compelling characters, and if this movie was trying to go for the horror movie vibes, you gotta build some suspense and some tension. And I felt like this movie didn't have any of that. I don't even know what I can grade this movie. I was thinking of going with a C or a C-. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm going to give The Lighthouse a C-. I think I'm going to settle on that as the score. But man, like, please, like, this is getting critical acclaim. I just don't see it. The Witch, because it's the same director, The Witch, I can definitely see getting critical acclaim because at least that movie had some suspense. At least there was buildup. At least there was tension. At least there were characters that were interesting. They weren't just sitting around yelling or talking at each other the whole movie. That's all this movie is. It doesn't build to anything. It lacks the suspense, and dialogue is just so drawn out. Like, I wanted something more, and I didn't get it. I'm sorry, guys. I did not like this movie. It's A24. Horror movies are very hit or miss with me. I did not like this one. Guys, what did you think of The Lighthouse? Leave me a comment in the comment section below. As you can probably tell at the beginning of this movie, I was goddamn bored out of my mind. I will leave all my links to my social media accounts in the description below. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.